Okay, so we have a very interesting speech here, which I found particularly interesting, and I wanted to share with you because I like you. But before we start, please click on the button, the like button, so we can push this further. Just this. It's done. Appreciate it. Done. Thank you. Let's go.
We're now at a point where gunning down hungry people as they desperately try to get aid is a daily occurrence. There was international shock the first time, but just like with the bombing of the first hospital, when there are no consequences for Israel, they are emboldened and they carry on. 700 Palestinians have now been slaughtered at aid sites. Baby formula is blocked. They are literally starving babies to death, and still the EU does not act. In fact, instead of holding Israel to account, President von der Leyen has Netanyahu, a war criminal, on speed dial, and she's actively encouraging to carry out illegal strikes on Iran. There is more outrage from EU leaders about artists calling out a genocide than there is against those who are actually carrying out that genocide. Solidarity with Palestine is being criminalised, and the EU is sacrificing its civil liberties to support Israel. But Palestinian solidarity grows stronger every day. The people won't be silenced. The people are demanding suspension of trade with Israel. The people are demanding sanctions against Israel. The people are demanding an end to their complicity with Israel's war crime and its genocide, and they are demanding that their EU leaders act and listen to them.
Thank you, Madam President. Israel is continuing with its extermination plan, and just like the Nazis, it is imposing its final solution on Palestine. On the ruins of Gaza, it wants to build a concentration camp. It was called a ghetto in Warsaw. It was what the Nazis were doing. There are legal implications here. There are treaties on arms trading. We should not be selling arms to those engaging in genocide. We should not have trade relations or investment in Israel. There are legal rulings to that effect. So why are EU countries still buying and selling arms with Israel? Why are we still trading with companies who are supporting the illegal occupation of Palestine and genocide? Now, alongside the US in NATO, the main Netanyahu client, launching attacks on Iran. Together, these are the main threats to peace and security in the world. Rearmament is complicity with genocide, ladies and gentlemen. The Spanish rearmament plan includes buying Israeli military equipment. We should comply with international legal rules. But what you're doing is being complicit in genocide, which converts you into criminals.
Madam President, what was it? 1, 2, 3 hours ago, Thomas Tobé on behalf of the EPP was talking about the victims of communism. The only difference between us is that we never make difference between victims and victims. It should not be controversial to assert that killing, starving, mutilating and slaughtering children constitute a clear violation of international law. That is what is happening right now in Gaza, what the far-right government of Israel is doing against the children of Gaza. Make no mistake, history will judge each person that refused to act to end the ongoing genocide in Gaza. Hate is not the opposite of peace. Apathy is. Apathy equals complicity. Those who don't want to be complicit to the genocide on the Palestinian people must demand suspension of the EU-Israeli Association Agreement now.
Let me ask you a real question. Iran replied to an Israeli illegal attack by bombing Israel. Okay, it's easy to condemn Iran, as you have done time and time again. But over the last years, Israel has bombed, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Iran, Sudan, Yemen. Of course, Palestine is illegally occupying Palestine, parts of Syria, illegally occupying parts of Lebanon. Are you able to condemn this? Or do you say, no, I fully stand with Israeli violations of international law? Do you have these double standards, or do you adhere to international law?
Please. Minister, you would have read the same headlines as me. Israel wants to have 600,000 Palestinians moved to a camp in Gaza. It's like 3 times the size of Charleroi, 3 times the size of Liège in a camp. The ultimate objective, in the Israelis' words themselves, is to actually expel these immigrants, these Palestinians, from the Gaza Strip. Israel is now reopening the worst pages of European colonial history. Let us not forget, well before the horrors of the Second World War, colonial Spain had already established concentration camps in Cuba with hundreds of thousands of people dying from poverty and famine and illness. The UK had them in South Africa, the Germans in Namibia, and the French as well. So it's a concentration camp, and if that doesn't shake your support for Israel, then that is unacceptable. In the meantime, we've been fighting for human rights. We've been fighting against colonialism. But you stay faithful as partners to Israel. In fact, privileged partnerships that some of you continue to defend. That's unacceptable today. Let us sanction Israel urgently.
Minister, Commissioner and colleagues, yesterday we bore witness to the very grotesque image of Benjamin Netanyahu presenting Donald Trump with his nomination papers for the Nobel Peace Prize. The words that come to mind are beyond parody, beyond ridicule, perversity, incomprehensible. Because on the same day, Israel Katz, the Minister for Defence, proposes that to move Gazans to an enclosed area in Rafah, perhaps satirically referred to as humanitarian city. George Orwell could not have invented this kind of language. Described as well by Israeli academics and lawyers as, I quote, a blueprint for crimes against humanity, close quote. Eventually all Gazans will have to go there. Even the professor of Jewish history at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, Amos Goldberg, said the plan was for, and I quote, the creation of a concentration camp or a transit camp for Palestinians before they expel them. I think the one thing that we can agree on in this divided House is that the Nobel Committee in Oslo will not dwell too long in those nomination papers. Thank you.
At least 1,000. That's the number of victims in Gaza since the 26th of June. The last time the Commission discussed this conflict. So thousands of lives, many of them women and children, thousands and thousands of lives which are still in the balance because of famine, because the Netanyahu regime is organising and orchestrating that famine. And there's a report being drawn up that's too late for us to bring pressure to bear to stop the association agreement, and nothing came of this. So a letter from the heads of state and government to ask them to allow humanitarian aid. And one day later, Netanyahu stopped the admission of aid in North Gaza. The lack of power from Europe is shameful. It's undefensible. How long, Commission, is this going to go on? Another 1,000 deaths, maybe 2,000?
Dear colleagues, every day in Gaza and across Palestine, people are injured, killed, displaced, land is stolen, humanity denied, life suppressed. How did we get to this point? And what is our responsibility? This is not just a matter of international politics. It is also a matter of political economy, of capital, greed and profit. Private corporations actively fuel and profit from the Zionist settler colonial project, the occupation and the ongoing genocide. This is the key message of the latest UN report by Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese. A powerful capitalistic machine of profit is feeding destruction. Arms manufacturers like Lockheed Martin, Leonardo, and Thales supply the weapons and fuel military escalation. Tech giants such as Google, Amazon, and Meta enable mass surveillance and repression with no ethical restraint. Construction and machinery firms like Caterpillar and Volvo deliver the bulldozers that demolish Palestinian homes.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a coordinated system of profit. This is racial colonial capitalism. Genocide continues because it is profitable. But we have a duty. The European Union must suspend
Please come to an end.
Israel Association Agreement now.